I'd pretty much kind of like checked out. I was just at that point, I was not sure if I was going to live or die going into it. Leaf Clover is the first single off of the album called Bottle Rocket.
Hello, my fellow Martians. My name is Harry Mars, and this is the On Mars Pod, where we take a deep dive into creative professionals, entrepreneurs, and other inspiring Martians alike.
4 months into being with that label, I knew I didn't want to be with them anymore. Everybody's so supportive, and like I said the other day, like being able to look around and just see people who are telling me like, you got this. I was letting them steer the ship. And now I learned through that what I really wanted, because everything that I didn't want to happen happened.
Hello, my fellow Martians. Today on Mars, we have a songwriter, musician, and a multi-talented artist. We have Josh Murphy, aka the Kaleidoscope Kid. Thank you so much for being here today, my brother.
Thank you for having me, dude.
Yes, sir. It's been a long time coming. Me and Josh met in probably 2020, maybe 2021.
Yep.
Fellow homie Esteban Obregon. He was actually on the pod. I forgot what episode number, but he actually was living with Esteban, and that was a pretty big turning point in your life too, when you were living at that spot, and we'll get into that. There's a lot that you have done since then,
Yeah.
And before that, of course, and recently we've been working a lot together.
Yep.
Working with Danny Orange, aka Daniel Jordan K.
Yep.
Doing a lot of good stuff, man. So I'm excited to get into everything. Usually the way we like to get these going though is like an origin story, you know. So you grew up in AZ, is that right?
Yep.
Where in Arizona?
I grew up in Peoria. I went to Peoria High School on the west side, so I grew up over there.
Nice.
Little skate rat over there.
Exactly. So, and that's like the first loves in a way.
Yep.
Is like music and skateboarding from the beginning. So before you actually like got into skateboarding and got like a guitar, do you remember early days, like your parents playing music around the house, or like even like movies on the TV, or like was there like certain like pop culture in a way that was being shown in the house to you in early days, and what do you remember from that?
Yeah, my dad had he had like that extensive taste in music and was real big into like classic rock and things like that. And so growing up, like listening to Jimi Hendrix, Pink Floyd, that kind of area, all the way to like just, Alice Cooper and Rob Zombie and weird things and all that. My mom, she listened to a lot of stuff. She listened to like a lot of like radio stuff, you know what I mean? So a lot of those like female songs from like the early 2000s, like those country songs, like those early, I can't even remember.
Like Shania Twain.
Exactly. Like stuff like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. I remember driving around and stuff like that, but I can remember the exact moment that I was like, I want to like play guitar. It was after watching the movie Almost Famous.
Oh, yes. We talked about that.
Exactly.
Yes, that's such a classic in the 90s.
Exactly. And I was probably like 8, and I was like, I want to be a rock star.
Yeah. From that moment. Yeah, if you haven't seen that movie, just watch that. You know exactly what he's talking about. They live it to the fullest on that. I mean, to show that almost like it was like a inflated image of what a rock star should be in a movie, and to see that as a kid, I'm sure that had big influence on you.
Exactly.
And also it's kind of like you had a blend, so you were listening to like classic rock, but then also like top 40 type country pop or whatever, which makes sense because your sound is like a blend of like like you've always been like a genre blending artist, but I feel like you kind of sit in that realm of like it is very much instrument based, but it does sometimes have like a pop feel to it in like the best way, you know?
No, I feel it.
So then getting into skateboarding, that was something. Did you have a skateboard before you got a guitar? Because I know you got a guitar like 9 years old.
I had a skateboard before I got a guitar. I was skating from the time I was like 6 or 7, and always skating and doing that, and then a guitar, around like 8 or 9.
So then the skateboarding culture, do you remember ever getting like serious where you were out all the time before you were 9 years old? Or like how was that like when you were young, like 6 years old, skating?
It was at that point we were just building the most like ridiculous ramps and rails in our front yards and stuff like that, and like really sketchy stuff.
Yeah.
It was never something that I really took seriously as far as skateboarding, it was just like an outlet. And then when I did start to find myself around a bunch of super talented individuals that were like, I'm looking at all of them, I'm like, you guys are gonna be professionals. I just wanted to hang out, and I always had a video camera with me, so we were just always, I never thought of myself as that. I wanted to like get the shot and do that stuff. So I love skateboarding, but I really liked capturing those shots and those moments.
So do you remember early days of like the barracks and
stuff
like
absolutely, dude.
So you were probably like super influenced by like Chase, the filmer.
Oh yeah.
I think that was his name, Chase.
Yeah.
But the guy that was like filming all the time, did you ever want to be that guy and like make skate videos and kind of start putting edits together for, because you were around some legends. I mean, like who are the guys? Was it?
Well, I was at Union Hill Skate Park, and so it was like all the older kids when we were younger were like all the happy medium kids. So it was like Jaws, John Robb, John Mata, all these guys. And then as you get older, you start to like I'd met their brothers or mutual friends, and you start to meet these groups, and you're just around these people, and you're like, they're so insanely talented. Like, and so it's very inspiring to be around them too, as well. Like, it was skateboarding is a culture thing where it's like there's a certain like you're rebellious and go against the grain kind of thing. So being around them was definitely super influential on probably my character, and just being at the skate park, like. Definitely. I always joke like my music is like the genre is Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Yeah, for sure. That makes so much sense though, dude. No, I 100%. I mean, I grew up in the skate culture too, so to be able to, I don't know, understand and see those guys that are in your city that are you see as like a peer, but they're better. That you go out there and you're basically watching a demo every time that you go to the skate park.
Exactly. And I was never the type of person, even now, like it's like I never thought about making a living off doing things. Like I just did what I liked. And I liked doing it. So I never thought about like, oh, I'm gonna be a videographer or do this. Like I was making we released so many videos on YouTube like all the time, and skate videos, stuff like that, and it was just fun. And that was how music was too. It was like I didn't think about like signing a record deal or doing this stuff, and then it was like it just happened, and then it happens
for sure in its own time too.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it usually starts like that. It usually starts as like a love, and then you have the passion for it, because when you do it without the motive of trying to make something out of it, then or get something out of it rather, then you're gonna do it from like a clearer heart and like mind. I feel like,
absolutely.
I mean, I feel like that goes without saying for skateboarding too. You have to really want it, especially with skateboarding, because you're gonna fall more times than you're gonna actually land.
Exactly.
So that's the stuff that people don't talk about. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. That's why we always get back up, because we're used to it.
Yes.
We know what it's like.
Dude, yes. I had an episode with one of the homies. His name is Thaddeus, and he grew up skateboarding as well with his older brother. And so he was kind of like you in the sense where he was probably, you were probably around a lot of older people growing up as like younger cat. And so he was in the same situation. And I was saying, a lot of the times those kids that grow up skateboarding, they end up being a little bit more like resilient to like bullshit in life, because it's just like just pick yourself back up and then keep going in like a metaphoric way.
Literally, you know what I mean? So much discipline, or you're just completely insane, or both.
Yeah, right. And a lot of people can use that like skateboarding as like a form of like meditation, and that's, I mean, the same way that people use exercise.
Exactly.
And I can get behind that all the time. Like if you skate for 30 minutes, you're gonna feel so much better than you did 30 minutes before.
All the time, where I'm like, oh, I could go drive to the store right now. It's a mile away, but I'm like, I'm gonna go skate to the store. Like I always say, I'm like, how many years do I have left where I'll be able to skate to the store? You know what I mean? That's not going to be forever.
Wow. That's a good way to put it too.
It's like, I like skateboarding. It's beautiful out. Like, go for a skate.
Yeah, man. And something about being outside and like breathing in the natural air, just like sunlight, vitamin D, just like so many things that just come from physical activity like that. So, so skateboarding was super big in your life.
Yeah, for sure.
Then moving into getting a guitar. 9 years old. You picked it up for a little bit, but then
I set it down.
You set it down. I remember you telling me that, and I guess like, what was that like? And I guess were you just doing it, like what were you playing, and what was it that you're like, fuck it?
Well, in hindsight, I think it was like when all I wanted to do was play Jimi Hendrix. So I got like 3 Jimi Hendrix tab books, and then I had like a little silver Squire guitar and a little shitty amp, and like I would play these the intro to try and play the intro to Purple Haze or Voodoo Child or something like that, and I'd get it down. But I think as a kid I was kind of like always felt naturally talented in most things that I did, and that one gave me more resistance. I think that's why I didn't stick with it at the time. You know what I mean? But also at the time, I was doing martial arts 5 days a week too,
That's what it was,
and doing all that stuff. So like, and then skating on as well, and then wanting to hang out with friends, and then you're 9, 10, 11, you're talking to girls for the first, you're like all that. You're like, I don't care about that.
Like, yeah, for sure. It almost felt like a chore versus like something that was like you wanted to prioritize at that time in your life.
Yeah,
I mean that's a good point too, especially if you're doing martial arts or any type of sport for that matter. That usually at that age will more than likely take over. If you and you're also going to school.
Exactly. Yeah. My days were full. Like so, I was busier then when I am now.
Actually. Now you like live at the studio.
Exactly.
But yeah, man. So then in that time, you you decided not to play guitar anymore. How long was it before you picked it up?
I didn't pick it up again until I was 21.
Okay.
So like roughly like 10 years really that I just hadn't touched it at all. You know what I mean?
In that time that you weren't playing guitar, was there any time where you're like listening to music and you're like, Jesus, I just want to write music? Or were you writing like poetry, or were you doing any like creative stuff? Or what was your creative outlet during that time?
I was drawing and painting a lot, and writing a lot of poetry, and listening to music. And like I always say, like those like 16 to like 19, 20 before I picked up the guitar was like a lot of experimenting with like psychedelics and things like that, right? And my way of taking psychedelics then was to put my headphones on, put on music, and just lay there and eat a bunch of mushrooms or take acid or do something, and just close my eyes and just get lost in the music, because it would take me to these places that I couldn't even, like, it was like, how is this happening? You know what I mean? This is coming from my brain and I can't even imagine, or what is going on,
Right.
And but in those couple years of just living, growing up, experimenting with psychedelics, things like that too, I feel like I really understood how music made me feel at like a deep level, to where I was like, I know when I'm making something, it needs to make me feel like that.
Right.
And so it set these sort of standards within me to like, I want to make somebody feel like that, but it wasn't until later. I always wanted to make them feel like that, but maybe through painting or this. And I didn't think it was going to be music, And then when it happened, it was like, oh, this is working. And then I get to incorporate all the other stuff too, the art, making album covers, doing designing merch, all that stuff. So I'm like, all the other stuff that I used to love, I still get to do now too.
Exactly. And in those years, it wasn't like for nothing. It was actually like training you in a different way, and basically allowing you to learn yourself more. And by the time you were done with that break from music, or playing guitar at least, it really allowed you to become a truer version of who you were supposed to be the whole time.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's beautiful. I didn't realize that the experimentation kind of happened that early on.
Oh yeah.
That's I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't experience until later on in life. So that's, I guess, what was it about like exploring that kind of, you wanted to do that at such a young age, and what kind of drew you to that? Like, did you get to a point where you're like, you just wanted more answers, or what you were seeking more? Like, why were you seeking more?
I think
at such a young age.
I think at one point when I was like 12, I was already a black belt in karate, and I wanted to get out of the people that I was training under, and I was in a contract with them. So my dad went in there and pretty much like put his foot down and was like, I don't care what you do. Like, I'm taking my kid out. He's not happy with it. Right. And
at 12.
So I took like a couple months off. And then I remember being like, I want to do Kung Fu. And so he put me with this guy, Brian Donovan, and he taught Shaolin Kung Fu, and he had been taught up in New York by a bunch of Buddhist monks and the monasteries up there. And so he was this gnarly dude, and he had just started his class. So it was like, it's in a Safeway parking lot on like 75th and Cactus, and it's just like something like the size of a smoke shop almost, you know what I mean? Just a small room,
right?
And with mats and everything, and there was like 4 or 5 kids that were all. Geez. So we have his full attention,
right?
And also, like, I came in already a black belt from karate. Huge. So he was like, after my first test, like, he just bumped me up like 1 or 2 belts. He was like, bro, you're fine. Like, what I mean? But I was always, and then as I stayed with him for the following years, his classes started to grow. But we were at the start of it. And the way that he taught us, like, I was like 12, 13 years old, and we'd be doing like iron fist training, punching bags of sand, taking like wooden logs, big ass wooden logs that he had polished down, and like rolling them over our shins, sitting in a horse stance and putting them on the front of our wrist and letting it roll down and then popping it up in the air and catching it again, breaking sticks over him, doing all this type of stuff. But he was really big into meditation and Tai Chi and all that stuff. So like I'm like 12, 13 years old, right? And we'd do meditations where it's like beautiful things where you're like, breathe in, see yourself surrounded by white light or blue light, blue smoke. And you inhale, as you inhale this blue smoke, you exhale the white smoke and watch it fill the room until it changes. Then you do ones where it go into like very dark, like things. Like imagine like the worst thing that could happen, like your mother dying, and go into these like dark meditations of things like that. So being exposed to parts of at a young age, that's like where I'm super, malleable and open and experiencing all these things. Like these guys are like, they're setting up tea light candles 20 feet away and punching them out. You know what I mean? Exactly. And it's like, what is that? And teaching us how to like you'd start out at like a foot away and you'd work up and like eventually you're 10 feet away punching a candle out.
Like with
literally like just
the force of the.
So things like that, right? And in there's also hung up these beautiful tapestries of what is it called? The acupuncture chart. So all of those going through.
Yeah, like the what is that, pressure points?
Exactly. So you're just looking at all these, and I would just be like mesmerized by it. And then also like they did a Tai Chi class, and they did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class as well. And there was a couple of days of the week where my dad would just like leave me there as soon as the first class started and pick me up at the end. And I remember all the time for a while I was young, and there was one class in the middle where it was always just like 3 or 4 old people, and they were doing Tai Chi, and I would always just go to that class and do it with them. And I'm like a little kid, and I didn't realize that like my dad wasn't like, that wasn't a part of what he was paying for, but I was there, so he was like, "You can do it. Let that little kid do the Tai Chi." You know what I mean? So then my buddy broke his ankle, I broke my shoulder. We started experimenting with pharmaceuticals, weed, this, that, and the other. You know what I mean? And then I remember reading Aldous Huxley. I loved The Doors.
The band,
and their name is based off of a book, The Doors of Perception by Aldous Huxley, who's like one of the coolest. I don't know, he's like a pharmacologist or a pharmacopsychologist or something. I believe he was at Stanford, and there's a hall in there after him, if I'm not mistaken, but the Huxley Hall. But he takes mescaline derived from the peyote plant for the first time and writes this beautiful, like scientific, like very like dry kind of experience of a psychedelic. But that's what that's based off. So I read Aldous Huxley's The Doors of Perception, and then maybe like a year later stumbled into acid, and I was buying weed, and somebody was like, "You want some of this?" And I was like, "What is it?" Acid. I was like, "Sure." Went home, took it. I was like, "Okay."
You took it by yourself?
Yeah.
First time?
Yeah. My buddy Ryan came over maybe like a couple hours later. And then my roommate came home later. I remember calling my roommate because I was supposed to pick him up, and I was like, "Hey," I was like, "I can't pick you up." he's like, "Why?" I was like, "I took acid." He was like, "Do you need anything?" And he had taken it before, you know what I mean? He was older than me. He was like probably like 5, 6 years older.
That's cool, man.
And I was like, "Just bring me some orange juice or something from the gas station."
Yes.
Like, "Thank you."
Perfect, dude. Damn, dude. So you basically got exposed to like the inner stuff kind of early on. And I think that's a beautiful thing because especially you had like almost like a Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi sort of situation. You know, that's what it sounds like.
No, for real.
In like he was your Mr. Miyagi in a sense of like your, I don't know, what would you even call that? Your
he was like a mentor. He was definitely like a
mentor, but sensei.
Yeah, he's my sensei. Yeah,
your sensei, actually.
My seafood sensei.
Yes, and that's, I don't know. I didn't know that, man. I feel like that makes so much sense because it basically allowed you to see things like that and like feel like meditation. Even having the discipline to do meditation at that age is insane.
And then I grew
now.
Like I grew up hunting with my dad my entire life, so I it's like seeing deer get killed and elk and this, that, and the other, and like doing this stuff. Like I always definitely felt like when I got back to school and talked to kids, it wasn't like not everybody was talking about the same. You know what I mean?
It's like we are in different worlds, dude. Like you're talking about like going to like scooter down the street.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, dog, I just killed a deer, dude. I just killed the deer and fucking turned off a candle from 15 feet away. Like we're living different lives. Yeah. Blacked out at 12 though. That's wild. Yeah. I didn't know that either.
It was at it's called Chunkkunkdo, and it's Chuck Norris, him and his brother. They own this place, and it's they would come in every once in a while, and we do like contests. Like I have these photos of me just stacked with trophies and this, that, and the other and stuff like that. But it was like kind of like gimmicky, you know what I mean? Yeah. So like it was a lot of like that and stuff, you know. And then when I got to the Shaolin stuff, it was different. I was like we'd be doing our tests, and we'd be in a room, and he'd turn all the lights off, and he put 4 candles to make on the corner of the ring, and we'd have to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for an hour in the dark, you know what I mean, and things like that. And like,
whoa, that's a different type of sensory training. Yeah, you're like whole shit opens up because like your pupils get all wide and like ears open up, senses get crazy. Whoa,
yeah, it was fun.
Dang, dude. Yo, so I kind of want to like, while we're kind of on this topic, so we've talked a bunch about Ram Dass. You pointed out the Be Here Now, and you obviously experimented with some things, and there was Wim Hof is another one I wanted to bring up. And I just wanted you to kind of talk about like kind of stumbling into that world and like, you know what I mean? Because I know you feel very passionate about it, and you actually practice the Wim Hof Method. So yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of Vice News, Viceland, all back in the day. They were like, I loved like Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia, just so many great shows on there. They had Thrasher on there, King of the Road, but there was a documentary. It was like a 20-minute documentary on Vice on their YouTube channel, and they're doing these studies in like Switzerland where they're essentially taking blood samples from people, and they're injecting those blood samples with the E. coli bacteria, which is causing an inflammatory response in the blood, and then they're trying to give it medicine, to combat that and to reduce the inflammatory response.
Right.
They catch wind of Wim Hof because he was doing all these crazy things already, so they're like, let's test his blood. So they bring him in, and they test his blood, and no inflammatory response. And they're like, okay, well, like you're a superhero, you can do this, but can other people do this? He's like, yeah. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to give you 12 subjects. Like, how long do you need to train them on what you're doing? And I think he said like 10 days or something like that. And he comes back in like 7. Don't remember the exact details, but super short. It might even have been shorter. They bring the patients in, they put them in beds, and they inject them with something that is essentially going to make them have the flu, right? You're going to be extraordinarily sick while this is being pumped into you.
And they know this is going to happen.
They know, they're aware this is going to happen. They're signing up for this. Yes. Within 30 minutes, each of the subjects is able to completely stabilize their immune system without any inflammatory response. Exactly. And so I'm like, I had already dealt with autoimmune disease stuff, you know what I mean? So I was like, this is interesting. So I started going into it, and because it makes sense to me. And then as I dig deeper into it and hear his story and start listening to podcasts from him and stuff like that, and then I start trying the breath work, it was like, at first it was this beautiful stillness. It would give me the quieting of like the egoic mind, the small inner mind. Like after 3 rounds of doing this breath work, that shuts down, and you're in this kind of stillness in this place. And so anytime I'd be having anxiety, it was like I'd realize like I'm not my anxiety, I'm just experiencing it, and I'm in my head, and I'm trying to stop a thought with another thought. It's not going to work. I need to stop the thinking mind by getting into the body and doing a somatic experience, whether it's exercise or this or that. So by getting back into the body, you can get out of the thinking mind, because it's like the thinking mind isn't you. You know what I mean? It's just this thing. And so at first it was just purely almost like a meditative thing, like a meditative state. You know what I mean? I was very interested in all the medical benefits of it as well, but just purely like physiologically super relaxed. The way it does is it stimulates what's called the vagus nerve, which runs through your entire body. And it's essentially like the central highway for all your other nerves. So by doing this breath work, it's stimulating that, and essentially you are hyper oxygenating the blood. And from my understanding, it's that you are alkalining the blood, and that disease, cancer, and these things cannot exist in an alkaline environment. So you can feel these incredible sensations as it's happening, this, that, and the other. But that, along with the cold showers as well too, because the cold showers, they're very, like, you ask, what's the largest organ in the human body? It's the skin, right? How do you exercise your skin? You in the same way that, like, you exercise your heart on the treadmill, you put it through a certain stress, so you put it through the cold, so the blood has to rush up to it, and it has to open up all those things, and it has to create blood flow and circulate. It's so good for cardiovascular disease, which is killing majority of people. It's extraordinarily good for it gives you this release of dopamine that is kind of time released in a weird way. So you get this 200x increase in dopamine, but it's not instantaneous. It's over the next 4 to 6 hours. It kind of comes in these waves of that from that. And then also you have, so you're exercising that organ. You get out of the shower or you get out of the cold plunge, and your body just is red because all the blood's going to it, and it needs to. You know what I mean? Exactly. We don't do that, and that's why when it gets cold and we're always bundled up, everybody gets sick because they're not adapted to it. Their body doesn't know what to do with it because they're not exercising it. And
makes sense.
So yeah, those two in combination, and then because of my autoimmune disease that I was diagnosed with, like I remember having a flare up, and I hadn't had a flare up in like a couple months, and I was like, well, let me because I was using the reishi mushroom and the camu to treat the flare-ups. And I was like, well, this is essentially saying it's doing the same thing. It's kind of re-educating the immune system through this. So I was like, let me try it and reduce the inflammation. And dude, 3 to 5 days of that, I did it. I didn't have to take any of the reishi or that. And I don't know if it was placebo or what, it worked. You know what I mean? But it was, ever since then, I've been a huge advocate of it. And like, also, then you start to realize that how, like, when you're going through say an extraordinarily difficult experience on psychedelics, how things like breath work and yoga really work, where you're like, you need to stop, get out of the identity, the ego that you're holding on to. You're going to be fine. You're going to come back together, but you need to get into your body right now. Your body's telling you it needs to move. It needs to breathe. It needs to stretch. You know what I mean? And those things really, really, that's where it was like ingrained into me. It was like, oh, that shit works.
Yeah.
Like it was like, that does something else.
Yeah, like physical evidence of, and I wanted to talk about the, you touched on being diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and what is some sort of like
it's called reactive arthritis. It's known as Reiter syndrome.
Okay.
Yeah, but
how old were you when that was diagnosed?
21. So I just picked the guitar back up, and then I started playing like 3-4 months later, boom, and I got hit with that, and then was in the hospital for like 4 or 5 days before I got checked out. And like when I got checked in the hospital, I literally weighed like 95, 96 pounds. I normally would weigh like 125. So I had not been able to eat because when I got checked in the hospital, the doctors were like, you pretty much have a 3rd-degree burn throughout the entire mucous membrane of your body, which runs through your eyes, mouth, stomach, sexual organs, ears, everything. So it was like extreme pain and discomfort. And I was like, I'd pretty much kind of like checked out. I was just, at that point, I was not sure if I was going to live or die going into it. And then, when I got out of that, I was kind of like, well, that didn't happen, and just wanted to act like nothing happened. And then the doctors told me, they were like, the chances of you having a flare up like this again are very low. And it's also a symptomatic diagnosis. Like there's no test for it. They gave me just based off purely symptoms, And so they're like, this will probably never happen again. And then literally 2 months later, it happens again. And so I wasn't as scared as I was that time, but I was like, okay, this is going to be an issue if this keeps happening every 2 months. I was living in Sedona before that. And when I got sick, I came back to live with my girlfriend's parents on surprise. And that was in August, September. And then by March, I was living in my truck again in Sedona, and then we found a little trailer like a month later. And then I started to like try and find different ways to treat it.
Yeah.
Because they had given me one round of antibiotics the first time I got sick. Second time I got sick, they gave me another round of antibiotics, and they're like, this is the last time we're going to be able to give you antibiotics because your body will start to adapt to it. So we're going to have to give you something stronger, like to suppress the immune system, like methotrexate or something like that.
Which is basically like,
it's like a low dose chemo. Yeah, exactly. You're suppressing the immune system in that sense. And so that didn't make sense to me. And my parents have suffered from, autoimmune diseases themselves, and have chose to deal with it in the ways that they, want to. And I did not want to do that.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'll go back out to Sedona. There's a bunch of weird people out there. I'm sure I might be able to find something, dude.
I was like, if you're going to find a holistic method anywhere, it's Sedona, dude.
So like the first, like I got out there and I'm like doing everything from like Reiki to like weird supplements, this, that, and the other. And then my roommate came home one day. One of my best friends, Taylor, he's out in California. He came home and he was like into this dude. His name's Daniel Vitalis, and he's like real like caveman type dude, you know what I mean? Nice. Like eating bugs and raw meat kind of thing. Yo. And he had a bunch. Yeah, he's a wild dude. He was had got like this little CD-ROM of him essentially making a bunch of different elixirs with like crazy herbs and things that I'd never heard of. And he was like, there's this one thing in there, it's called reishi mushroom. And he describes it as an autoimmune system re-educator. And he's like, whether your immune system's overactive or underactive, in my case, it was overactive. It was attacking itself. So like, it was weird. It's like if I was in a room with somebody who had the virus for the flu and I got that virus, my body would attack that, kick it out, and then be like, what's next? And then it just attacked me, as opposed to somebody who's immune deficient in the sense that where they like get a cold and they just their body can't even fight, survive through it. Mine was fine. Dude, I did not get sick for like 6 years. Like I just would get flare-ups. So when I started getting sick again and not getting flare-ups, I was like, the first time I got sick, I was like, this is so nice. Like it was wild. I forgot what it was like. Yeah, I was like, dude, this is actually nice because I know my body's normal again.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But, that's crazy.
But yeah, the reishi mushroom and then camu berry with that. It's just super high vitamin C, but you can get those at Whole Foods, Sprouts, anywhere online. It's game changer for sure.
Yeah, man. And so that, like the holistic methods mixed with, exploring the mind through meditation and through the Wim Hof kind of breathing and ice baths and cold showers and all of that's kind of what
Wim Hof was like, maybe like 4 or 5 years after. But,
oh, wow. Okay.
But really, like, it was just those first couple years, like it was the reishi mushroom and the camu got me through it. And I was doing other things here and there, but it really wasn't until like maybe like 26 where I started to like look around and be like, all right, dude, like, what are you doing? I was just kind of out in the middle of the woods doing whatever I wanted. It was fun. It was so fun. I was living for free in Sedona, like working for, in a work exchange. So it was like, I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And then it was like, what was it, 2019 or 2020 that you moved back to Phoenix?
Right at the end of 2019, like pretty much that Christmas.
So
like,
right before COVID?
Yeah, literally. Like I moved 3 months
before COVID.
Exactly. I moved back here, and then they gave me a key to the studio over there with the squad, and then COVID started happening, and by March they shut everything down or whatever.
Yeah, it was March. Yeah.
And I was like, bro, I just was in the middle of nowhere by myself, locked down, and now I'm like, nothing's changed. Like I was like, nothing changed for me. Exactly. Yeah. I was like, that's the only thing is. I was like, well, guess I'm back in my cabin.
Yeah, literally.
But now, but it was amazing, like like a place to really curate in time and space to work on stuff, and it was everything happens how it's supposed to happen.
No, for sure, dude. And there was a quote that I found that you said about that time. You said, I had no idea what I was doing there, but I felt as though I was in a trust fall with God or the universe or whatever you want to call it. The more I learned to trust the process, the more I found something was always there to catch me anytime I thought I was finally about to crash and burn.
Yep. Yeah. No, it really was like, I was not going at music as like and it sounds insane to say because I still feel that way, but it's like I wasn't thinking about it as like monetary or financial or success. It was like, my actions were kind of like Ram Dass, where it's like, Alan Watts has a beautiful quote where he's like, you have to trust God as if you would trust another. And it's like, you got to trust someone to catch you. And it's like, when you do that trust fall, like when we were doing the trust fall, the knee keeps jerking. Yes, you know what I mean?
Right.
No knee jerk.
No knee jerk.
Full send. You know what I mean? Just like that. And it was like, if there is something out there that is like, that is curious and it enjoys creativity and imagination, and it's like you're feeding that, it's gonna reciprocate that in a way back. So it was like, all right, I see you, like I'm gonna see, how far you'll let me fall, and then and in that falling is where all the bullshit kind of falls apart too, because it'll let you fall, but it's like more so to deconstruct what was there before that was holding you back. It's like you got to go. Carl Jung has a quote where it's like the things you're looking for in the places you least want to look. And it's like you got to go into those places in yourself. Like if you follow your curiosity, it's not going to take you to rainbows and lights and hugs. It's going to take you into the insane asylum. And in that, you got to figure out what that is. Like I've followed my curiosity and it's taken me to the craziest places, but I've had to confront my own self and like ask myself, why am I, why is this the path I'm on, or why is this who I am in this moment, or this. So it's music is my greatest teacher. That's how I say. I'm like, it's just at this point, that's really what it is.
Absolutely, man. And it's always been a core pillar of your life from the beginning. And I think in that moment when you moved back to Phoenix, that was just another example of that being a pillar that allowed you to basically lean on it for whatever you needed.
Yep.
To have a space that was with open arms given to you with by these guys, the Odd Squad. And shout out to Odd Squad, man.
Shout out to Odd Squad.
Yeah, for real, because that's your family at this point. And you're doing a show with them coming up soon. We'll talk about that too. Yeah. But it's like those guys. I kind of want to talk about like how did you meet those guys, and what was the connection, and how did you get offered the place? Because you were basically living there at that point, right? Because they gave you the key to just be able to sleep there, right?
Nobody knew I was sleeping there at first.
At first. They started seeing little trails, little breadcrumbs of.
They were just like, the studio's always very clean.
I get here really early, guys.
Exactly,
I get here really early, but I leave really late.
Exactly. That's what I was playing the game at first. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't sure how they're gonna feel about it.
Yeah.
But man, I met them through Matt, and Matt
Campbell?
Yeah. And so Matt was managing that. Matt,
what's your relationship with Matt real quick?
So Matt and I met, like we knew each other from Union Hill Skate Park, like growing up out there. And then when we were in Sedona, he came up to Sedona one day with a mutual friend of ours, and we kind of like looked at each other, and he was like, Josh from Sonic? Because I worked at Sonic across the street from the skate park.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, Matt. And so it was cool because like at that point I wasn't making music. We were just taking psychedelics and hanging out up there. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it was nice to reconnect. And then I started playing music again, or picked up the guitar really for the first time at that point, seriously. And I played a song I wrote for Matt. I was out camping and he was up in Flag, and he was like, "Where you at?" I was like, "I'm over here on Forest Road 535. Come over here and we'll hang out." So he comes over, we're cooking dinner, and I play him a song. He's like, "Bro, come to the studio." He's working at another studio up on the north side, and brought me into it. And it was like a beautiful home studio. I mean, like really nice. Like the whole room that like led out to the backyard had like the control room, whole beautiful booth for drums, everything like that. And real cool like bar area. Just was like really, I'd never seen anything like that before.
What was he doing?
I mean? He'd been working there. He was
like an engineer?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
he'd
been engineering there, and he was interning. I can't remember his name, but he was interning under the guy who lived there.
Nice.
And so they, I think it was Shane. Yeah, Shane. They were in so he took me in there. We started recording stuff, and then he kind of started helping me distro everything, and he was like, it wasn't really like a management position, but it was like a business partner position. Mm-hmm. And it was like, whatever hat needs to be wear, we need to wear, we'll do.
Yeah, he does that well too.
And he started doing that with the squad, but I think with the squad, it was more so like he saw what they already had, and he was like, hey, like I can help you, and came in, and like it just so worked out. And then, so I remember the first show we played, dude, it was probably like,
you 12. Opened for a squad or something?
Yes, I did. It was me, another group, I can't remember, and then the squad. And it was at, what's it called? Fear Fest? Yes, dude, it was like, was like no stage, like flat on the ground, like dirt, like, you know what I mean? And it was just such a funny, and that was the first time I met him, you know what I mean? And I didn't really talk. I lived in Sedona. I think I was the type of person to just leave right after a show. Yeah. And so I don't even think I stuck around. I just left right after. But yeah, so then, being around them, it was just like, it was like I was in their space and I didn't know them like that too.
Totally.
Like it was like, so I was being very respectful. I always say like, I'm like, the studio's like the dojo. It's the same mentality I have about like martial arts, where it's like, yeah, that's why I try to keep it clean. You know, I sage it, Palo Santo, do these things. And it's just a ritualistic thing for me. Like, you know what I mean? To like put intention to like, this space is very meaningful and important, and remind me of that.
Absolutely, especially because you were kind of like, I guess, green in the industry at that point, because you were just really getting back into music making at that point.
Yeah.
So it's like you didn't really even have any real pieces out, right? Nope. Like you released your first like records in like 2020, I think, as like the Kaleidoscope Kid. Is that right?
No. So it was like 2016. So
on streaming services, did you take them off?
I took them all down and then redistributed them. So like when I had Hold Up, Hold Up was the first song I ever put out was a song called Spaz. Second song I put out was a song called Odyssey. Third song I put out was Hold Up, I think.
Okay.
And I put out Hold Up, and Jacob Owens from Buff Nerds, because we were like kind of in like mutual groups, circles, just very, you know, distant, but he was like, he had seen it and was like, dude, this is great. I want to put it on the channel.
Nice.
So he put it on the channel.
Oh, wow. It's still up now?
No, because I had him take it down when I signed the label. Yeah, exactly. Okay. But so we you know, we did that, and then that gave us a good little boost. And that song naturally, organically got like, I mean, it had like, when I signed the record deal in 2022, it had already had like pretty much like 4 million streams on it.
And that was after redistroing it so that wasn't from 2016 streams.
No. So that was all accumulated from 2016 to 2020.
Up to that point.
Then when the record label, when Suburban Noize hit me up, they were like, we want to do 2 albums with you. And I was like, dope. I got 2 albums already made. I had this album, Azul and Paper Tigers. And they were like, well, the first album we want from you is going to be like 5 or 6 of your old songs that already have a tremendous amount of numbers. And then we're going to take those down. We're going to keep all the IRC codes. So then when we distro it and we pop it up that first day, it looked like it got 10 million views. You know what I mean? And it's like, that took 6 years to do or whatever. You know what I mean? And it was like, it was cool. I mean, but so the first project we did with them, it was self-titled, The Kaleidoscope Kid with Suburban Noize, was 5 songs that were like old, and then 2 new ones. We did one with one of their artists, Big B, who's a good shout out to Big B. Fucking awesome dude. And then we did, and I think I did one other new one on there. And then they wanted a 12-track album, and so I made that for them. Then,
so that was all while you were still living with the squad and kind of like, you know, doing stuff with them, or were you? Because I mean, we were talking about the squad. I mean, they're definitely influential in your life, and they're like, you know, I guess to put it lightly, those became your brothers very quickly after you moved into the studio.
From 2020 to 2022, before I moved to LA. It was like literally I was living at the studio that first year, and then I was living with Esteban.
Yeah, that's right.
But those I never I had just been writing music by myself, and like I didn't really have that kind of family group, and so like coming into it, it was so cool to be accepted and see people doing the things that I was doing and be ahead of it. Like this squad had already had over, you know, like they were at like almost 250,000 subscribers on YouTube. They had millions and millions of views. They own a studio that they're paying for with their music. You know what I mean? Totally. It's like, I'm like, okay, this is crazy. And I just tried to bring value that whole first couple of years. But those guys, like I've cried with them, laughed with them, seen it all with them, been on tour with them, went on my first tour with them, did all that stuff. You know what I mean? So it's been it's cool being back now, because I moved back like a year and a half ago, and I was a little like, I came back from LA with my tail tucked between my legs a little bit, and I was like, I'm so glad that I came back now.
Totally, man. I mean, dude.
The band's here, the squad's here, all these amazing
surrounded
people.
By creative people all the time.
Yeah, it's been very rewarding and and I knew when I came back from LA, I was like, I need a good group of people, a good support group. Yeah. And like I didn't have many people that I trusted like that outside of the squad. Yeah. And when I moved back, I remember I was the squad was on tour, and they were in Vegas, and I called them. I was like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "We're playing in Vegas now." I was like, "Cool, I'll meet you there." I just drove from LA to Vegas, kicked it with them for a couple of days while they were on tour.
You're like, "I need to see you guys." Yep. I'll be there soon. Mm-hmm. Dude, I mean, and then there's also the Hourglass Cats and Something Like Seduction, because you were living in what we used to call the island, and what everyone used to call the island, and that was another, beautiful moment in time where you were able to be surrounded by those guys, because those guys were active every single day type shit. They'd be playing guitar by the pool and just like smoking cigarettes and just hanging out. And that's like your environment.
I used to pull my little Tempur-Pedic mattress out the first, like, for a long time, dude. I would just pull it out in front of the pool area and I would just sleep outside. And nobody would care. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like,
it was just normal.
What's up, Josh? You know,
exactly.
I wake up to like Chaz's dog licking my face. I'm like, oh, what's up, dude?
Right, dude. And for anyone that doesn't know, the Hourglass Cats and Something Like Seductions are great bands out here. Something Like Seduction stopped making music a while ago, but Hourglass Cats still active. Actually playing that show with you guys coming up.
Yeah, Corey, the lead singer, he put me on a lot. Like, he used to come up to Flagstaff and do these shows at Hotel Monte Vista, and we linked up somehow through the social media or a mutual friend.
Okay.
And then he'd invite me on for shows when I was just me with the playing backing tracks, you know, with the rapping with the mic. And,
right.
So he's been there for the jump, and then he even helped put together the band. You know what I mean? Like, he was the guy that I called when I was like, hey, like, I need to put together a band. Like, you know what I mean? And he's like, you're gonna need a first string, second string, third string, because everybody's torn, everybody's doing this. And I was like, okay, cool, taking notes. You know, but super influential, super helpful, and I always love seeing those guys. They crush it. They're so good live. Like, I just love watching their shows.
Very much so. They're very polished.
Yes.
And they're musicians through and through. Those guys super talented. Every time that I've ever, like, basically almost every time that I've ever seen them, they've been having a guitar around and like someone's playing, someone's singing. There's always some creative stuff going on, or like we're shooting a video and they're a part of it. And the energy that they have in that group of people was very like conducive to like creative shit. So I'm sure that was like very influential, especially at the early stages, to kind of have these people to, I don't know, get put their wing around you.
Exactly.
Straight up. Because it's like, it made who you are today for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. And I guess, so then moving into when you did go to LA and you were, signing with Regime, and this is with the Sublime's manager. Is that
it's
right?
they like he was like the big, I think one of the biggest promoters for Sublime, and he manages like the Bradley Knoll Foundation, and he manages his son Jacob Knoll and things like that. So like right when I got out there, we go into like this huge party, and like Bradley Knoll's wife's there from Sublime, and Jacob and all these people, and I'm like, wow, this is wild. Like Sublime is such a huge influence on me, and like these guys, like it's like I'm literally walking on the path that they walked on. Like it's like crazy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was really trippy when I got that phone call. I was like, I was not expecting that. And it was like, I knew it was not going to be the end goal, but I knew it was going to be a step on the ladder for me to say yes to that deal. Like, I was like, all right, cool. Like, I should do this,
Yeah. And how did that even get on the table for you? Was that like through some sort of like management agency, or was that through just like direct reaching out? Or?
So he, there's this dude, Big B, the one that I did the song with. He's real good homies with this guy, Carey Hart, the motorcycle dude. You'd probably know him if you saw him. But he, Hart Huntington tattoos from back in the day. But so he, my buddy Tanner shot photos for them. And Tanner, I think, was the one that like Big B had heard me through. And so then Big B showed Kevin, the owner of the label.
Right.
And Kevin was a huge fan of like
Kevin Zinger.
Yeah, Kevin was a huge fan of like Charles Bukowski and like these like some really kind of like outlaw poetry types and things like that. And I had made a couple references that are kind of like real, like
deep.
Exactly. It's like you'd have to know. And he said he was like, listen to the music, and he was like, listen to it for a day or two, and listen to it in the shower one day. And then he was like, he heard something I said in one of the songs, and he was like, a line about Bukowski, and it was like rip a page out of a Bukowski book and rolled the cigarette, and like with the page, kind of thing. And he was like, "That's great." And so and then he just had given me a call actually Big B was like, hey, my homie Kevin's he's gonna hit you up, and I was like, word, dude.
Did you know who Kevin was at the time, or were you just like, cool, nope. Whoever this guy's
I had no idea. I had no idea who Big B was, really. Like, he was a part of OPM. Those dudes, like Heaven is a Half Pipe. Remember that song?
Oh, yeah. Exactly. Oh, my gosh.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So Big B's old school.
Dude, I'm pretty sure that's on Tony Hawk's soundtrack.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I had no idea who he was. And then, I hopped on the phone with him and we had a conversation. And, then maybe I want to say a week later, it was September 13th, 2022. I'll never forget, because it was the exact day that I got checked into the hospital for my autoimmune disease 7 years later. The exact same day I signed the record deal. Yeah. And I was like, and I also had I probably had negative $200 in my account, and they sent me a check for maybe 12 grand or something. It was I think it was I think it was 6. I think it was half now and half later, something like that. You know what I mean? Totally. But I was I'm looking at Matt yeah, this is crazy. I was it's exact day. You know what I mean? I was so it felt very significant in that sense, and it felt like the right choice, and it was for sure at
the time.
Exactly. And it was very cool for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you were able to experience some crazy life. I mean, you were in Malibu for a minute there too.
Yeah. I lived with Kevin for a couple months. He was gracious enough to let me I was like, hey, I'm trying to come out there and find a spot. Can I just kick it at your spot? So I was there for maybe a month. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Realistically. Yeah. I lived with him, and we'd go surfing, we'd go to the beach, we'd go up through Thousand Oaks to the studio up there and do all that. And at that time, I was looking for a spot, and then I moved into that spot in April. So I left the day after my birthday, which is February 17th. And then so from about a month and 6 weeks, and then I found this really cool spot up there with some amazing people, and was there for 2 years. And then that was, even though I was there for 2 years, I spent a lot of time on the road and traveling. I was doing a lot of the first year was just me traveling solo.
Performing.
Yeah, exactly. Literally just doing solo tours and doing weird, opening for Milky Chance, opening for Incubus, opening for most random things, when it's me with a guitar and an iPad. You know what I mean? Whoa. It's this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But it was very, very cool. And then the last year before I really moved back is when I started to work with the band, and all the guys were out here. So it was just natural too for me to come back out here,
So is that when you were kind of I got to get out of this deal, or how did you negotiate yourself out of that deal?
Well, the deal was very good as far as an independent deal. That it's here's 2 albums,
okay,
and you're done.
And you already had those,
no bullshit.
And you guys kind of already had
I finished the album while I was there, because like I said, I had 2 albums done, but they didn't want those ones.
Right, they wanted to recreate.
They wanted a whole new thing.
Okay.
They didn't like Azul because it had too much auto-tune on it. They didn't like Paper Tigers because it was too folky.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, all right, I'll give you something. So I gave him an album called Nothing for Free, because I realized in that time that nothing in this life is for free.
Yeah.
And people are going to do things to you. Everybody's looking out for themselves. Everybody has their own shadows and egos and unconscious that they're operating in, and little scared children inside of themselves. You know what I mean? And you got to deal with all that at that level. And so it was I didn't, I pretty much, maybe 4 months into being with that label, I knew I didn't want to be with them anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let me just give him the album. I gave him the album, and I put a lot of work in it, but it was weird too, because it was the first time that I ever, when I was in LA, I was sober for 2 years, and I had never, I wasn't smoking cigarettes, I wasn't smoking weed, wasn't doing anything, no drinking, nothing.
Oh, wow.
I never made music sober before. And so it was a weird challenge. I'm in the most uncomfortable place where all I want is drugs to make me feel better, because I'm so used to that. And then I can't use them because I'm, the circumstances. I'm I had gone out there with a woman that I was I don't want to bring this into this relationship anymore. I'm tired of this shit. And I was combating that the whole time, you know what I mean? Because it was I'd always covered up my emotions with substances, and now for the first time I'm having to deal with them head on. You know what I mean? Exactly. And it's why did I wait till when everything was going right? The record deal, the girl, this, that, and the other, to be I actually haven't been working on myself. I've just been passively somehow got here, and I'm, you know what I mean? So it's been a big change, coming back after that too, where it's like I said, you're constantly having to ask yourself, what is your why? Your why is always changing.
Yeah.
And my why had to change again, and it's painful sometimes when that happens. So but I'd had it happen enough to where I wasn't worried. I was like, all right, this is gonna be uncomfortable for a little bit. You're gonna be all right, dude.
Yeah, every time,
exactly.
every time, dude. It just marks another chapter, though. Yep. That's all it is. And usually, it's like every chapter that you lived in the past, you learn something, and you become like a different, truer version of yourself every chapter. Yeah. And it's like getting into the point where you left the label, you're going independent. I'm sure that was like a super, bittersweet thing in a way where you're like, I have to scale back hella. Mm-hmm. I have to like, again, come back, like you said, with my tail between my legs. Like, hopefully someone will like, be there for me and shit like that.
Well, at that point, I was really confident because I had such a kick-ass manager team and a lawyer and agent and all these people where I was like, all love to the label, but I was like, bro, like I'm not worried about it. Yeah. We're set up, you know what I mean? And so that's been comforting because, like I said, like I have an incredible team of people around me right now. So like they're working at some of the highest levels, like they're, you know what I mean? So it's very cool, and it's just at this point, it feels like the only thing that can stop me is myself because everybody else around me has pretty much already achieved the success that they were doing, and so it's really inspiring. And it was honestly a lot too, because like before it was like I was making music just by myself, and then bringing the band in, it was like, okay, like I actually genuinely have some really cool opportunities to change my life and the people around me. And it was like, I don't know if I want that responsibility, you know what I mean? Because it was like, you have to really show up then. Yeah. And so the past year and a half has been me integrating that and trying to take that role and steer the ship. And it's been very rewarding. Like it's given me so much. As soon as I started to step into it and accept it and appreciate it, it's given me so much more meaning and so much more energy and drive and intention and clarity in what I'm doing, why I'm doing what I'm doing. So
absolutely, man. And being in that control in a sense of like being the front man guitarist. Because I remember you were saying before you would have to get guitarists to be your guitarist, and you took it upon yourself to really hone in and learn it to the point where you're comfortable singing and playing at the same time. And taking those steps is a good way to really have the control over your own shows as well. And I think that's something that everyone needs to really have that passion that attached to it too, because you were so good at writing already, but almost having that extra challenge of playing and singing is a different skill. Yeah, especially doing it in front of people. Yeah, and like confidently.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I always tell people when I teach them guitar, I'm like, especially a beginner, I'm like, what's your favorite song right now? Like super simple song. We're gonna learn how to play it and sing it.
Yep.
You got to learn all that right now. Like it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Don't separate the two. And that's what I did. Like I learned Pink Floyd "Wish You Were Here" when I was like 21, and it's fairly simple song. You know what I mean?
Classic.
And I was like, I could do this. Super cocky. You know what I mean? And I just started making songs immediately. Like I learned like 2 songs and I was like, I could do this.
Yeah, dude. That's the shit, dude. I love that. Especially like being a young 20-year-old, you still have the energy to like do that stuff. And being in like in Sedona too with your guitar, like I'm sure you had so much inspiration around it. Yeah, the whole thing is crazy.
Yeah, it was fun.
So then now come back out, when did you move back from LA?
It was August of 2023, or August 2023, I think.
Okay, nice.
Time is crazy.
Yeah, right. It's already freaking March.
It was right at the end. Exactly. Right, yeah. 2024. I was pretty much here. We had, but yeah, it's been just like in the studio working on stuff since then, and then working with the band, and it's been super cool.
Yeah, man. And these songs that you're kind of working on right now, have these been written with the band, or were these with? Okay.
Yeah.
Have you written music with the band, or just played some of your stuff that you've written?
Yeah, I just show them what I have, and then I usually what I do is I'm like, all right, let's just play, and I want you to just play whatever you want because it might be different, and then you can hear it. But then, because I'm like I think I've said it to you before, like the song is like, it's alive. It's a living, breathing thing. Sometimes I want to play it slower or faster. I want to play it a different key. I want to sing it different. It's like, it doesn't have to be the same thing every time. You know what I mean? That's not what art is. And so like, I'm really not attached to like the structure. Like I'm like, well, it could be even, but it could change. So most of the times it's like I come to them and it's strange because up until, like 2 years ago, I never played with a band.
Right.
So it was like, this is so new for me. And they've been playing with bands for like 10 years. So I've learned so much being around them too, because they're so that's their skate park. That's their, like, it's like, okay, cool.
Musicians, straight up.
Exactly.
Do you have intention of like writing music with them and like kind of locking in that sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I look forward to that very much. So like, there's a part of me that like romanticizes like those old Red Hot Chili Peppers documentaries of them just in the studio and
locking
doing
in
this.
a mansion.
Exactly.
So the writing sessions with Rick Rubin.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, dude, those are classic videos. Yes. Just like, I mean, you should like record stuff like that. For the archives. Tomorrow, set up a tripod camera. Just
like tomorrow, we're doing the 4-Leaf Clover live performance at Catastro Studio, right? And Strabs is engineering and doing all this shit. And I was like, yeah, I'll bring the cameras through and we'll do BTS. We'll mic us up too and all that stuff and like just have all this stuff. You know what I mean? And he was so stoked on it. I was like, it's gonna be really cool.
Dude, that's exciting. When is that?
Tomorrow.
What time?
I was gonna ask. I was like, from 11. 11's our start time. I'm gonna pull up at 10, but 11 we're starting. Matt will be there. The whole band will be there. Yeah, Danny's shooting. So if you want to pull up, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, pull up, man. We were supposed to shoot something tomorrow, but it's fell through. So after we were supposed to shoot it after, so I was gonna prep for that. But
I see.
I'll definitely be at that.
Yeah, dude. Yes. Have you been to that studio?
No, I never met Catastro and them, so I'm stoked.
You're gonna love
it. Every time I see the main, is his name Strabs? The main guy.
Strabs the drummer. Yeah.
Drummer.
Bald head?
Yes. Yeah. Every time I see him, I'm like, it kind of like reminds me of Esteban.
No, literally. And they're best friends. They're very good friends too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, exactly. Like they're very good friends. Like,
because I feel like I see him on Instagram.
No. Dude, when I sit down with Straps to talk, like on the few occasions we have, it's like, we're like, so how's music going? And then we just spend like an hour talking about like Wim Hof and like, you know what I mean? Like nothing about that. Like, it's like, we just are like... just talking about psychology and everything, you know what I mean?
Totally, man.
So I love people like that. Like I really love to just pick people's brains. So I'm excited for that. But
for sure, man. No, I've definitely seen them. They've been in the scene for a while, and I feel like it was always just a matter of time before I ran into those guys. We ran into, because we all run in similar circles. I feel like
it's gonna be a fun
so
time.
many artists around Phoenix. They're all. It's such a small. It's like a big but small place.
Yeah, it is.
Phoenix. Hey, Martians, real quick. I appreciate you taking the time to listen or watch wherever you are in the world. Over the last few months, the Martian family has grown so much. I could not be more thankful for all of my guests and every single one of you who continue to tune in every single week. Subscribers, ratings, likes, and comments all help us grow here on Mars. And it would mean the world. If you haven't already, please go to onmarspod.com/subscribe to subscribe on YouTube. Like and leave a comment, rate us on Spotify. All this good stuff helps keep the engine running to inspire Martians all over the world. P.S. Follow us on Instagram @OnMarsPod. Okay, let's get back to it. I wanted to kind of talk about like the new music though, and like you just released 4-Leaf Clover, and have you talked about like what this next project is called? Have you kind of like
not really? Actually,
kind of just doing singles and stuff right now, because I know you've been writing music, but I didn't want to like.
No, I haven't.
I didn't know if anything's like out there.
You're good, because I haven't gotten a lot of this stuff, like even like the martial arts stuff or this, so it's been cool, you know. But with this like we released 4-Leaf Clover. 4-Leaf Clover is the first single off of the album called Bottle Rocket. And the album is been done for like 2-3 years now, pretty much. And like I wrote 4-Leaf Clover like 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And so now I like to drop like a handful of singles and then drop the album.
Yes.
But I'm really thinking of how I want to give every video its 15 minutes of fame. Because like a song can get buried in the album. It's like if I just put them all out as singles. And then we've been working on the visualizer with like Danny and you.
Yes.
And having that where it's like, this is a beautiful artistic piece of thing, but we're doing it within these budgets, within these things that we're working around, and having fun and capturing those moments. So I'm like I'm just gonna keep pushing singles and just let each song have its moment. At least with this album. And then I have a couple other albums that I'm sitting on. My intention is just to shop around for the next label deal, or to see some other things like that right now. So that's what we're kind of figuring out. But right now I'm just slow rolling out Bottle Rocket.
Yes.
And so that's and I'm excited. There's some really Bottle Rocket was a different one. Like it was like I was at a different place on the mountain when I wrote that. Like I had really gained some leverage, and I was like, it felt like I mean, it felt like another chapter, like you're saying. Like it was like, all right, cool. Like we're stepping into a new thing now. Like this is gonna be different.
Yeah, and then just based off of when you wrote that, that was like right around the time that you're getting out of that label deal too. So it's like you're kind of refreshing back into that independent mindset from a real like all me type situation. Like probably feel like you have a little bit more creative control in a sense too. People aren't telling you that this isn't cool enough or this is too much of this or whatever. It's like whatever I think is goes.
Exactly.
That's the beauty of being independent. That's why nowadays it's so beautiful that you can like do this shit, even though it's a lot harder to like go from 0 to 100 as an independent artist. If you can retain creative control and also make it, that's like the beautiful that's it right there. Like then you've made it, because so many people will like give up creative control for money, and these are when people say you're selling your soul for the labels and stuff like that. That's what happens on like a big scale though, where it's like with you, it happened on like that label, they didn't throw like millions of dollars at you, but it's just like when you do get signed for millions of dollars, you know they're gonna have their hand in your shit.
And that's why like when I came out of that, like I went into that deal being like a person who had never been into a martial arts class before, right? It was like, I don't know how this works, so I'm trying to observe my people around me, the elders of this situation, the people that are more experienced, and then I'll make my choices. But I'm not just gonna pick up the ball and like throw it, you know what I mean? Like let me, like I was like, I was letting them steer the ship. And now I learned through that what I really wanted, because everything that I didn't want to happen happened. And so now I'm like, oh, I know now. So I'm grateful, because now I actually, through the direct immediate experience, know what I want and know that, understand that part of myself.
Yeah, for sure. And then now you know what questions to ask for your next people. If you do decide to partner with another thing, you have leverage in the sense of like, I know how this game works now, dog.
I feel like I have not the upper hand, but I don't have any pressure to do it.
Right.
Like I'm like, I don't need you to.
Exactly.
Like I'll do it either way. If you want to hop on with this, cool. But I am not gonna, no.
Right. And the label, and it needs to be like a negotiation, not them just saying, here's what we're gonna give you.
Exactly.
Take it or leave it.
My thing is, I want them to be excited. I never like, that's like, I don't ever like try to push stuff. I want people to be trying to call me and I'm not answering. They're like, dude, I really want to work. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to work with a label if they're not fucking like genuinely stoked, because they're going to shelf you, dude. You're going to be just pissed off. You know what I mean?
And that is so like that as an artist, that has to be like one of the most like disheartening things to feel like you can't put something out because you signed a contract about it. It's like, that's crazy. It's like, there's, and some people take it for granted, the ability to be able to self-distro stuff and like really self-produce anything that you want. And, now with the amount of tools and the ability to reach out with other people, work with other people, everyone's, DIY. So it's a lot easier to make music now than it was 20 years ago. We're in like a very big advantage for creative artists. So it's the age of the independent artist. Like a lot of times you're not even going to get a label deal unless you already have blown yourself up to a certain degree, which is, I think, better for the artist too, because then it allows you to really get the development side and put that groundwork in by yourself before you're getting someone that comes in and just tells you how to do everything. Because that's how it used to be back in the day too. Like artist development was such a big part of the deal. When they would sign you in the 80s and 90s or whatever, it was like they would put hundreds of $1,000s just into developing you as an artist with media training, wardrobe, and they're actually like changing your image and like saying like you're gonna be this person in the band, and like this is like how, like, I don't know. And that's why a lot of these great artists back in the day kind of worked, because it was kind of a formula, and like even Red Hot Chili Peppers kind of fell into that world of like they got signed in that same way, where there was still getting $2 million budgets from music videos and like doing crazy shit like that, and it was all part of a formula to blow you up. And it's like now it doesn't work like that.
Formula's changed.
Yeah, exactly. And now the formula is like on the creator's side, where it's like we're kind of making the formulas like day by day, and now it's like there's no real like tried and true method anymore. It's like, because you can blow up on accident and then not know what to do with it. And that's the scariest part.
That is a scary one.
It's like people that go out, those stars that shine the brightest, they fizzle out the fastest type shit. It's like man. So now that it's exciting though, because you're in an independent mindset, you can create, and we have a bunch of people around us like mean, Danny and the squad is always there around you, and being able to create on a high level. I mean,
everybody's so supportive. And like I said the other day, like being able to look around and just see people who are telling me like, you got this.
Yes.
It's like, I mean, I'm like, dude, like it's really, I couldn't ask for anything more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like to look around and people who are all just like, go, yeah, you got this, dude.
Pumping each other up. Exactly. That's the most fun thing ever. I mean, even just like when we're getting together, and I kind of want to talk about like getting into like acting and shit like that, you know, like because you acted in Jesse's short film. That's gonna be, I don't know if that's you know,
I don't know when that's out.
Yeah, so that's untitled. Yeah, look out for that. But like you have like a little role in that, and being able to kind of like get into that bag, and we're doing a lot of acting with Skits and like for your stuff for content and like futuristic. We're doing some stuff for him, and being able to act in these things, I feel like that's flexing another creative mind, and like getting together here at the house and like shooting skits for 5 hours, like that's like fun as fuck. Like we're just like all hanging out, drinking, eating, smoking, just like having fun, shooting funny content. Like that's such a fun time, and like to be able to be surrounded by people like that is like something I couldn't even like,
you gotta like be willing to step out of your comfort zone, you know what I mean? And it's like you're around people who are constantly trying to, if you're stepping out of your comfort zone, it's usually because you're trying to improve yourself.
Right.
And so it's like, it's a reflection of like people who are all like willing to be uncomfortable for, you know, like, all right, this is going to be weird for like 2 minutes and then I'm going to get into it, you know, but like, it's like getting on a run. It's like, it's going to suck for the first 5 minutes and then I'm going to get my rhythm, but know that it's all shit when it first, you know what I mean? Sometimes like that, and giving yourself the permission to do that. But acting's been so fun too. Cause it's like you said, a different part of the brain. So creative, so cool about like integrating certain emotions, like understanding your anger and then being able to play an angry, like I'm playing a bad guy in the film. And it's like people look at me like I'm a very kind person and very sweet, and they're like, I can't see you as a bad guy, you know? And I'm like, I used to be an super intense, very gnarly person. And I also get on stage in front of, you know, 1,500 people and scream at them. So it's like, I know I'm in the booth like all the time. Like, it's like, I understand how to get loud, and I know that part of myself and things like that. So it's cool. Cause it's like, you know, it's, art is just, I mean, life without art is just so insane. The idea to even try to conceive of it. And it's the more I don't limit myself to be like, I'm just a musician, right? You know what I mean? And just like, oh, like I can paint, I can make a you know, macaroni noodle necklace, like whatever, not, you know what I mean? Like just like make something, you know what I mean? Dude. So that's it,
dude. I mean, back in the day, that was like a triple threat is something that they used to call people that could dance, act, and sing. And I think that's something that people don't think about anymore. Like, why not? Why not be multi-talented? Why not be an actor and a musician and a, you know, music producer or whatever you want to do? You know, it's like you can do all this stuff as long as you prioritize things the way that they need to be, and you don't like become a master of none, you know, or whatever. It's just like there's levels to it, and it's like if you do things in the right order, you can usually accomplish everything. Like especially like if you start at a young age, like you did. So it's like you kind of in a sense like check the box for musician. You know, an artist, like you've gone through the running of like being an independent artist, getting a bunch of millions of streams, getting signed by a label, going to LA, seeing the people doing this, coming back down to like humbling independent artistry. It's just like you did that dance. So now it's just like, what else can I do? Exactly. Why not?
Now it's been cool too, because like so much of it about it before too was like, so much of like music for me was like about an ego trip of like being validated and wanting to do this. And now I see that was like a carrot on the end of the stick that wasn't going to be fulfilling. And then now I feel like all I want to do is bring value and give back. Like I always say, music has been here before me and it'll be here after me. I don't think I'm going to do anything crazy with it, but if I could change one person, you know, giving a guitar lesson to a kid and seeing him lighten up, like, you know, or being able to like, you know, facilitate a space for you guys to come in and record and do these things. It's like, I just want to give back right now, like in any way that I can, because so many people have given to me over the years too. You know what I mean? So it's cool because when it's not as about me as much, it's like way less anxiety inducing.
Dude, 100%, man. And it makes it more fun, really. Exactly. It's like you're not in your head as much, and it's like bouncing ideas off of other people. Like, what do you think of this? And it's just like, that's the type of stuff that like I 100% relate to that, where it's like even living with Danny, like we're constantly doing shit. You know, we're constantly working on something, and to be able to even just have one person to be able to bounce ideas off of is money. So it's like any creative out there, you can relate to that. Like having other creatives around you to like push you to be the better versions of yourself, and that shit just it's fun for everyone. Yeah. It's like way more fun.
Like at one point, like I never looked at music like skateboarding. And then at one point, music became like skateboarding. Whoa. Like skateboarding was fun, and it was like you could just fuck around, like jump on and do this, and if you fall, whatever. It was like I don't care if I mess up. Right. You know what I mean? It became like that. It was like, oh, like this is just fun. You know what I mean? And that was probably like maybe like the last 2 years ago, and I was like, no, this is different.
Dude, that's a crazy parallel. I just thought about that too, in the sense of like skateboarding is more fun when there's other skateboarders around you.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like when you're pushing each other to try these tricks.
Get it, bitch. You got this shit. You know what I mean?
Try.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like maybe even like people that are a little bit better than you kind of give you some tips. And it's just like same thing with the music.
Oh, try and move your shoulders, you know
right.
what I mean? Yeah.
It's like with the guitarist or something, it's like, well, what if you played it like this? Or like with like a vocalist is like, yo, like what if you tried to sing it like this? Or what if you tried this melody in the studio? You don't get those opinions unless you're around other musicians. So it's like same way that if you're at a skate park without other skateboarders, you're just gonna do what you do and whatever in your head. And you might not even try as hard.
No.
When you're by yourself. I found myself like when I'm skateboarding by myself, I find that I usually just try to go through the basics and my go-tos. I never try new shit necessarily unless I'm with other people.
They're pushing you, exactly.
You know what I mean? Yep. It's like, why would I?
You need a little tension.
In that sense of like, and that's like maybe just because I don't see myself becoming a professional skateboarder.
Yeah.
You know, like whereas if I'm by myself playing music, I can definitely lock into like trying new stuff and like trying new tones. And maybe like in that sense it's a little different. But like still like when I'm with other people though, I'm more open to trying new things. That they maybe suggest as well in the music sense. But yeah, with skateboarding, sometimes I'm like, when I go to the park by myself, I'm like, let me just do some pop shots, some heel flips, maybe a couple board slides. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not going to go crazy. Nope. It's like, there's
don't need to hurt myself.
Exactly, dude. I'm by myself.
Exactly.
If I break my ankle right here, I got to walk my ass back to my car by No way, dude. Nope. No way. There's no way. I'm 30 years old. Okay, I ain't got time for that anymore, dude.
Or insurance.
Yeah. Also, that too. Dude. So, I kind of wanted to get into the next thing here, man. We got a guitar here. And I asked you about an hour and a half ago. I was like, yo, would you be down to perform your new single for Leaf Clover? And you said that you'd be down, man. So I'd love to set that up and let's get that going.
Let's do it.
Fuck yeah, dude. All right. So this song came out last week, 2 weeks ago. Yeah. 2 weeks ago, yes. So and like we said, we've been doing a lot of the content with Josh here, Daniel Jordan K. So you definitely got to go check that out. There's a lot of cool content, and the video for it is out as well. Is that right?
Yep,
that's right. Yep. So, but yeah, man. So 4-Leaf Clover by the Kaleidoscope Kid, man. Let's do it.
She's from the city, east of LA, where all the girls never age and all the boys, they look pretty. He's from a small town in West Mississippi. His father was a copper and his mom was a hippie. He was a dropout, couldn't make a living, but he played that guitar just like he was Jimmy. She's college educated, but at night she's just a waitress. One day she'll get a break, but the world keeps spinning. 4-leaf clover, my good luck charm, you're my 4-leaf clover, you're my good luck charm. 4-leaf clover, my good luck charm, you're my 4-leaf clover, you're my good luck charm. She's old-fashioned, loves the movies and romances, playing music while she drives in a car. It's fate, whatever, she was trying to be an actress. He was playing Sunset Boulevard. She was dancing in the crowd like no one's watching when he saw her standing there at the bar. Then she asked him, Mr. Big Shot, did you ever get a chance to see the Hollywood stars? It's a Hollywood love story, just like those movie stars. Yes, Hollywood love story, just like those movie stars. You're my four-leaf clover. You're my good luck charm. You're my four-leaf clover. My good luck charm. You're my four-leaf clover. You're my good luck charm. You're my four-leaf clover. You're my good luck charm.
Yes, sir. The Kaleidoscope Kid, 4-Leaf Clover, single out now. The song just came out 2 weeks ago. Go run it up on YouTube as well, which is so exciting. You got some new music coming out soon, and then also a show on April 12th.
April 12th at Monarch Theater with On Squad Family, the Hourglass Cats, Real Kyrie.
Yes.
The whole family.
Yes, exactly. All the homies.
We're going to sell this thing out, so get your tickets.
For sure. Yes. So where can they get tickets for this?
SoOdd.link, I believe, cool. Or go to my Instagram, but SoOdd.link.
SoOdd.link.
Yep.
So SOODD.
Yep.
.link for tickets to the April 14th show at the Monarch. April 14th?
12th.
April 12th.
Yes.
April 12th. I'm going to put a link right here, and it's going to say April 12th. I said April 14th, but it's going to say April 12th. I might even bleep it.
You said 12th, and then you said 14.
Damn it. So it's April 12th at the Monarch Theater in Phoenix, Arizona. Yep. Super exciting. This is your first show in a minute since you just did the one a couple months.
Yeah, we did the New Year's one.
Yeah, New Year's. That's exactly, what it was. Yeah, dang. That was a long time ago.
It feels like it was yesterday.
It feels like it was yesterday. But yes, so super exciting stuff here, man. Thank you for taking the time to come on Mars here. My fellow Martians, go follow Josh at the Kaleidoscope Kid. I'll put the handle right here as well. Do you have a website linked? Is it like
tkkofficial.com.
Perfect.
Or kkid.link.
Something like that. Yeah, exactly. We'll put all the links here so you can click on them. We'll put them in the bios. But yes, my fellow Martians, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on Mars. Love you. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in and watching this episode of the On Mars Pod, and for sticking around to the end, man. I really appreciate you guys. You are the real Martians. Like this video, comment below what your favorite part was, what was most inspiring to you. Subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications here on future interviews coming out soon, and also follow us on Instagram at On Mars Pod. Love you guys so much. We will see you next time on Mars.